then sparks the question, how do you do that, right?
Okay.
So then a lot of these things that you're even talking about, offerings, altars, or spiritual works, all of these things are encompassed and are really coming from the Kemetic civilization. But because they settled into different areas after that migration, the way that you hid from the people that were pursuing you was to say, from now on, we're not going to call it Ra. From now on, we're not going to call it Eman. From now on, we're not going to call it Ta. We're going to call it this. Or if you settled in a different area, let's say if you settled in a valley, then you would deal with particularly deities or divinities that were based in the valley, which is going to be completely different from you settling and dealing with entities or deities or divinities in a mountainous region, or within next to water. So it's really technically, we're talking about the same thing, but we're talking about its root coming from one particular civilization that had to mask and hide itself. And some people were much more vigilant in maintaining it in its entirety, hidden in plain sight, so that when these people would come in and ask for, hey, I'm looking for this person, I say, we don't know those people that worship that kind of thing because we worship this. So then they said, let's not build these structures, these elaborate, magnificent structures that attract the uninitiated, to attract those that are obsessed with the material or obsessed with the flesh, and let's hide it in plain sight.
So you still didn't answer my question. I get it. You gave me. I understand how you get to. I get it, because when I'm saying I get it, the Yorubas refer to the quote unquote ocean god a certain way. Voodoo will refer to that same god a different way. We're talking about the same thing. Both religions are flourishing within the same geographical area. They're exposed to the same quote unquote environment and worship the same things, call them different things. So I still don't understand what is the practice that makes, because why can't I then, so I get it. Let's say I agree with the process of how the Kemetic practices adapted to whatever environment they were moved to based on the people that were there. At the end of the day, those practices are still what they are, regardless of what they call them. You know, if you're voodoo, you worship your ancestors. There's particular ways you worship your ancestors. If you're Yoruba, if you're Mina, if you're Fon, there's particular ways you practice that worship of your ancestors. So what is it that would then differentiate me as a Yoruba from a Dogon in my practice? Like, what are you doing different than me? That's what I want to know. What's that concrete practice?
So I can tell you, in the initiation you get through the Earth Center connected back to the Dogon lineage, we got a lot of practical ways to worship our ancestors and deities and divinities. So I'm just going to start from like basic level and go.
Oh, that's where I'm at. Oh, I'm at basic level.
So like basic level, anyone can do this. Anyone can start with like a white plate that they set out in their kitchen, or even if they already have an ancestral altar space, and anytime they're eating food, you give that first bite of food on that white plate to your ancestors.
I'm speaking your language now. Go ahead, I'm listening.
Right, simple. And even you take a drop of water, you take your finger, you drop the water on the ground, that's for your ancestors before you even take that drink.
Similar to like pouring out something for the dead homies.
So it's funny, you say that jokingly, but there's a line, I love to quote this line, because it hit me like a ton of bricks. There's a line by Damian Marley in a song with, I forget who he did the song with. The name of the song is called Brafia. And in that line, he says that even though people were taken away from their land, their practices and their spirits are so strong that some practices still surface in today's behavior. Meaning like you're still somewhat in tune with
intrinsically
this place you were taken from. So hence the pouring of liquor before we take a sip. and the offerings, or maybe we don't necessarily think of them as offerings, but you know, you go to some people's family homes and there's literally an altar built to, like, I mean, it's pictures and all kinds of things, but it's literally an altar to this ancestor or grandmother.
They don't even call it an altar,
yeah.
but
and, you know, everybody comes and talks to that altar, so to speak, right? So these practices somehow found ways to still survive, even though. So I get it.
Yeah. So that, you know, that's basic level. Then in the initiation, you learn how to set up an ancestral altar in your space, what kind of elements to put on the altar, what colors to use, how to display pictures. And then within the temple space, we have in New Jersey, we have temples all across the U.S., we have temples in Canada, the U.K., back in West Africa. In a temple space, you would actually have what's called the jingli. So the jingli is actually a gateway now to the non-material, to your ancestors, to deities, to divinities, that space is set up as very cleanly, very pure, so that those spirits can come through and communicate at specific times through certain practices. So the practice that we learn as an everyday practice in the initiation is called the Zemzem.
Okay.
So that's an ancient practice with chants, with positions. So we
Purification.
learn, and we learn what's called Katibi.
Okay.
And Katibi is basically the original yoga. So if we're talking about this as the original civilization of humanity, no matter your skin color, it's like we're all coming from this land.
You're gonna have a hard time selling that, but go ahead.
It's fine.
Hey, gotta speak facts. I'm not saying you as the person. I'm just saying.
I gotcha. I know it's a topic we can get into it, but this is as the original civilization of humanity, where all of our really ideas of all the other religions are taking the basis of their ideas from this spirituality. And
go ahead.
And if we can really talk about that, it's like the Katibi and the ancient practices that you learn in the initiation are even what we see as like yoga today, yoga and meditation practices.
And sorry to jump in, but yoga to some, I want to call them real yogis, is actually also, it's not just the exercise. It's literally it's a spiritual activity. So I get it.
Exactly. So we get that in the initiation, and you learn that as a daily practice, and then you have times where you actually might do specific practices on a day to your ancestors, where you do more elaborate offerings.
Sepulchral offerings.
So you might cook specific spiritual cakes to your ancestors. Then there's a specific day you might actually contact the deities, the divinities, divine holy day. So it's a long thing we could go into. Maybe I won't crack it all open
No,
today.
you can't give all the secrets. You're supposed to, you know what I mean? You crack the door open, you see who wants to come in. You get what I mean?
And, you know, higher level, we have an entire healing center in West Africa, in like basically an extension of the original temples of the Nile Valley, where people can go get healed, cleansed, spiritual works.
Where is this in West Africa?
It's in the mountains of Togo.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's in a city. I'm not gonna say the city.
Why? It's a secret. So okay, no, but you know what? We're there. You're doing exactly. You're actually giving me a segue without knowing.
I almost said the city,
it's
but then
all
I don't want people to get mad at me.
It's all good.
I'm not saying the
it's
city.
all good. They're gonna get mad at you anyway because they're searching right now.
Yeah.
So so you mentioned this when you were talking about the Kemetic. The Kemetic, I want to say people and their migration, and the fact that they felt under threat and they found ways to survive and push their way of life through. And it took like 3 iterations of me asking the same question to finally get an answer of a sample of practices. And I get it. I get it.
We gotta hide certain things.
That's what see, now we're there. Let's put the finger right where it's at.
I'm just gonna be honest.
So Mike, but this is a thing, right? Do you still as practicers or practitioners,
as initiates
of Dogon, are you still under threat? Because when you hide, when you don't. And when I say hide, is if somebody is forthcoming and asking a question genuinely, the fact that there's And I get it. It's New York City. I don't trust nobody. So I get it. Like, I understand. Like, I understand the spiritual, and I still deal with the material.
Yep.
So, why is that? Are you still under threat? What are you protecting this from?
Well,
clearly there's white adepts,
yeah,
and I'm just saying.
We have.
So what are we doing?
We don't hide it from. Colonialism is a mindset, which means that the knowledge itself and the work itself protects it from those that which would destroy it.
So what does that mean? The work that you do protects you from those who want to destroy. What does that mean?
The work itself.
What does that mean?
Which means that there's this principle in which the universe abides by, and you find it all throughout the existence, and it's called the principle of harmonization.
Okay.
So the principle of harmonization means that in order for different elements of a collective to make up that collective, they must all abide by and submit to the same goal.
Okay.
Which means, like, if you look at the human body, it's made up of different parts that have all different elements that have all submitted itself to abide by the same goal that an individual has chosen to reincarnate as in order to accomplish a specific destiny.
Understood.
So the same way that you could look at the human body in that capacity is the same way in which you look at this particular spiritual practice.
But I don't hide my human body. So I asked you the question, do you still feel under threat? Is that why you are very selective on how you're sharing information about it? That's what I'm saying. And if you compare to other spiritual practices, when you speak to a voodoo priest, he's going to tell you. He's not going to give you like there's certain levels of initiation before, you know, I'm giving you the cheat code, so to speak. But I'm going to tell you what voodoo is about. I'm going to tell you, right? So I'm curious, do you still feel under threat? It could be real. I'm not denying it. I'm trying to understand what this protective sense, where does that come from?
The thing is you have to be very, very intelligent about the way you give certain things to people, because a human being, the most dangerous thing you find on this planet is a human being.
Yeah, that's a fact.
And the thing is let's say you have somebody that is particularly seeking out a particular type of power, because once you give somebody knowledge, you cannot take it back. If I teach you something, I cannot take it back.
So we then not trying to teach some people. Who are those people that we are not trying to teach?
It's not that we're not trying to teach people.
Who are these people that we don't want to give knowledge to?
No. Don't get me wrong.
I'm going by what you're saying.
Don't get me wrong. It's that you have to make sure that somebody is actually embarking and putting the effort forth to gain that which they are seeking. Which means that because we have commandments that we follow, and the second commandment,
there's more than 10?
There's 77. They
That's
took 10 and then they left out the other 67.
I mean, listen, 77.
Yeah, 10 is easier.
Yeah, 10 is a lot easier. But the second one,
I could do the 10.
Yeah, the 10 is easy.
No, but even the 10 you can't even do.
Yeah, the 10 is hard.
Even though you break it down to 10.
Why you applying pressure to me?
They can't
I'm
even,
not
they
applying
can't even do the 10. So think about 77 comparing to 10.
So clearly y'all flawed just like me.
Everybody.
If I can't do 10, you definitely got to go 77.
Everybody is flawed.
No, we're not.
But the second one, just to go back, the second one is thou shalt not deprive a poor person of their subsistence, which means
is that the actual? So is that the actual commandment?
Yeah, that's the
with
actual
those
commandment.
English words.
With those English words.
Interesting.
So
I
then,
don't know if you know where I'm going.
So
I
then,
know
where
exactly
you're going. I know where you're going. But then the question I would ask you is, what is a poor person, and then what would be their subsistence, right? So a poor person would be somebody without knowledge, right? So then the question is how, if you are living by these ordinances, because they're really called ordinances, they're called divine ordinances, how do you deprive a person that is seeking knowledge from knowledge if that is what they are seeking, if that's against your practice? Because the thing is that if you go to the gym every day, you look like you work out. If you go to the gym,
I eat well.
you eat well. Okay, so let's say Professor Clump catches you on the street, right?
Yep.
And Professor Clump says, "Hey man, give me your body."
Professor Clump. That sounds like Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, that's the fat guy from the Nutty Professor. Yeah. So Professor Clump runs up on you, right? And he
Yep.
says, "Hey, I want your body." And you're like, "Bro, you got to work for it." And he's like, No, I just want your body."
I need it now.
And you're like, "Yeah, but like I went through a process to get this." That's the same exact way spirituality works.
You're still not answering my question. You notice I'm a bounce
Yeah.
right off of your example.
Uh-huh.
He comes to me.
Uh-huh.
I'm not fighting him.
Uh-huh.
I'm telling him.
Yeah.
You would have mentioned the name of the city. Again, it took 3 iterations of me asking the question to get practices.
Yeah.
What is it that you are threatened by? And are you still threatened by something?
Yes. I would
Thank
say
you.
yes. We are
What is it?
We are still threatened by individuals that are seeking to keep certain people under their thumb.
Who are these certain people?
Well,
Who are you afraid of? Let's
Hey,
let,
I'm
let's
not
no,
afraid.
there's only 2 listeners.
okay.
Like, who are these people that are trying to be kept under a thumb?
Okay.
And who does this thumb belong to?
Okay, I can see how you want me to talk.
That's a fact. It's called real radio.
Okay, I got you. Real radio. So here's the thing we're dealing with, right? We're dealing with individuals. You could call them, the elite. You could call them,
Invaders.
secret societies.
Okay.
You could call them certain people within certain governments that are very aware of the fact that the Dogon and these spiritual practices exist, and it will allow you to get what you want. So particularly, they have maintained a lot of their exposure over the course of thousands of years to this practice, and they've kept it locked away to ensure that other people do not get it. And that is why I even started this conversation talking about Egyptology, archaeology, these different practices, because what they want to do and what they would like to do is to be able to maintain a particular perception
So control
and a
the
particular
knowledge.
narrative, keeping people away from this. So we are very much
And it sounds
dealing
like
with
the
a constant threat.
And it sounds like the goal is to control. So you keeping information away to.
Well, I mean, this is not us per se.
No.
keeping
I'm not
information.
saying you, but
Yeah.
I'm saying
Yeah.
the folks we're speaking about. Are they trying to? What is the intent?
Control. It's 100% control.
Copy.
Because the thing is that once you demonize an individual to view themselves as a threat, which is what you do when you demonize someone's ancestors, you say go against yourself, but go towards this. So that's where you have the influx or the introduction of a lot of these religions. Because I mean, if you really want me to talk, I'll talk.
That's
because
a fact.
it's like this.
I mean, you do
This
have
is-
the microphone, right?
This
Okay,
is,
just
this,
checking.
is, this is the thing, right? Is you're dealing with people that are very much aware
Okay.
of this, and they want to demonize it. That's why people, even when they see Jay-Z throwing up the rock sign,
Yeah.
they'll be like, yeah, okay, that's evil.
Well, they call it Illuminati.
They call it Illuminati.
Is that who we're talking about here?
I mean, you could insert whatever secret
Okay,
society you
okay.
want to insert.
Okay.
Now the thing is this is like, if I really started saying certain things, then I really got to watch my back when I'm walking down the street, because it's certain things.
Am I in danger too?
I mean,
I understand what you're saying.
depending upon how much you really want to get into it,
Okay.
things
I wanna
become
get
dangerous.
into it.
But it's like this. The thing is, there's a lot of knowledge that has to be protected because of the fact that you don't want it to fall into the wrong hands.
Okay.
There's a lot of knowledge that basically any knowledge that you think these secret societies have, they don't have anything because they don't have any real spiritual power. They still have to go to people that have maintained these spiritual practices in order to get what they want. It is a very well-known fact within these circles, government officials, people seeking power,
Okay.
people seeking influence, come to these parts of Africa to gain that influence. You're talking about very influential celebrities.
So they
You're
go
talking
what,
about-
to this part of Togo, the city that we
they
don't
go
know
to
where it's at?
they go to very specific parts of Africa seeking it out, not just Togo. They go to very specific parts of Africa that have maintained these spiritual
You're
practices
intriguing me.
to get it. And the thing is that to the uninitiated, my brother Kanye right now is speaking a lot of truth to power. But
No,
to the uninitiated,
we're not gonna say that.
I'm saying.
Okay, let's go.
I'm saying.
Hopefully you're ready. Let's go.
But I will say this.
What is
To
he
the
saying that's true?
To the uninitiated,
What is he saying
they
that's
do
true?
not know what he is talking about, and they will qualify him or put him as crazy, because a
I
lot
don't
of
put him as crazy.
I mean, maybe not you, but there's a lot of people that are.
But I don't agree with
Yeah.
anything that he's saying right now. Let me be clear.
Yeah.
And the reason for it, and listen, I understand. How do I say this? I understand the context that creates that jolt of reaction. I don't think I don't necessarily think he's a well thought individual. So here's my problem. I think that in society, when you bring up people like that, we have this worship of people that are successful or famous. I don't necessarily equate success or famous with knowledge. I don't necessarily
true.
think that these people are well read. I don't
No,
necessarily
they're not.
think that these people possess any kind of more. As a matter of fact, some of them actually think that I am more read than they are. So
You probably
just
are,
because
yeah.
he is more successful doesn't mean that he speaks the truth. And
True.
a lot of what he's saying is not factual. Particularly, and what I don't like is,
Well, I'm not saying everything.
I get you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're defending Kanye.
Yeah.
I just want to give you context. So particularly for me, I understand what you mean with the context with the African American in the U.S.
Yeah.
Like I joke a lot of times. I call U.S. Babylon things. I'm sorry.
It is.
My
It's
accent
Babylon.
is terrible. No disrespect. I pretend.
There's
I'm
the
only a
Guyanese,
pretend.
the
I'm
Guyanese
only a
and the-
pretend.
and the other
West
Caribbeans
Indian.
approve.
Only pretend. So no, but I say that to say what? Because the way the system was built by design, it took away a lot of knowledge of self from black folks, to be specific. And there's always been a struggle, just to tie in what I mentioned earlier, because we have these spiritual outbursts that we can't necessarily explain. There's always been an effort to connect and make sense of who we are, where we are, why we're here, where we come from. So I get that effort, but within that effort, within that struggle to make sense of that, there's a lot of wrong behaviors. There's a lot of wrong things done. There's a lot of false prophets. So I can't sit here and claim that whether it's Jay-Z or Kanye are necessarily people that I would follow, because I don't necessarily think that they have the knowledge that I seek.
Well, they don't per se.
Wow,
But
you were
they
bigging
know-
up Kanye, so I
but
had to
they
make
know-
sure we.
They know
So
how
that-
to get certain things, because I mean, information is power.
Well, money is power here.
Information. I mean, the thing is
Forget
this, right?
information.
A
In this
middleman.
world,
If you know the guy that can get you the connect
Yep.
to get you what you need, like let's put it within the context of the drug game, right?
Yep.
If you are the person that can introduce me to the connect,
Yep.
that can get it for me for a lower price and get it for me in here, right? Here in America,
Yep.
that's power, right? Information, because you know the guy. And you could then use that
I see where we
information
are. If
to
we're going to
get
talk
me.
drug game, we're going to be lost.
Yeah.
But I'm going to
But
say
you could get me
the only way
right?
that connect comes is because I did business with him and he made money with me. Again, money is power.
Okay.
So, but that aside,
Yeah.
He clearly knows how the secret. He clearly knows
He-
how the system works.
He's revealing
Yeah.
inside information
That's right.
that he should not be revealing.
so when yes,
Yes.
so some inside information,
Yes.
and that's pertains to his experience in the business world.
Yes.
Not to his spirituality. And
No,
that's where I was like,
No.
I'm not with him.
He's revealing.
When he talks
inner
about
workings.
the way the machine works in
Yes.
terms of his business success,
Yes.
some of it is true, some of it is also just ranting and frustration. But that aside, business is business.
Yeah.
So I get it when you answered my question about what the threat or why
Why
sense
we
of
keep things? Yeah. Why we protect things?
There you go.
Yeah.
So we heard about Jersey, and you said something about other cities. So y'all are everywhere. This is a gang.
Yeah.
Yeah. We gang.
Okay, I'm with that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
We
this
everywhere.
temples is this U.S. based? No, this is real
Yeah.
question. Is this U.S. based worldwide? So I know of the. So I'm originally from West Africa. That's where I was born. That's where I grew up. I was born in actually Congo, but I grew up in Benin. My father's from Benin.
Nice.
And my mother's from Congo. That being said, so I know about the Dogon people, and for us, it's just like any other tribe. Like my grandfather's Yoruba.
Yeah.
This person is that. That's how we move.
It's a tribe.
So I'm curious, like, how does this? One, is this? So, to be blunt, to be Yoruba, you have Yoruba blood. To be Dogon, you practice. So it's a different thing in terms of, because Yoruba is a tribe, not so much not so much a religion, so to speak. So I'm just curious, as Dogon people, you could come from everywhere. So these temples are mostly where?
So the Dogon tribe itself is from various areas in West Africa, like you mentioned, Burkina Faso, Benin, Mali, Togo.
I forgot Mali earlier.
And
I forgot
Chad.
Mali.
I was on it. Don't worry.
And this really is a collection of bloodlines, right?
Okay.
That have preserved the knowledge over generations. And now, one high priest of the Dogon, Nebnaba Lamusa Denabig, who is, we
I'm
consider
not going to be able to repeat that.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
We got you. We consider him our master teacher because he's the one from the culture who brought all this knowledge over to the West.
He opened up the door into the Dogon culture.
So this is what I don't understand, right? And
because
for a group that's under threat, that is not freely, that is careful about how they share knowledge, and then why the West?
Because the world is
there's plenty of black folks and Africans there. Hear my thought process. Struggling there, poor there, dealing with some potentially harsher realities.
Well, they're poor economically, right? Within the context or the
I don't think they're poor culturally.
But that frame matters. Of mind of colonialism.
It matters because I got to eat to survive, right? So I'm talking in the pure necessity way. I need a place to live. I need to eat to survive, right? So even in that context, the struggle, quote unquote, is realer over there than it is on this side of the pond, right? So why come here? This is what I'm trying to understand.
Because at the end of the day, he had to be honest, and they had to be honest and say what we're doing is not working, because we keep hiding and hiding and hiding it. But then these people keep showing up and keep.
You could name names. They
keep infringing upon our lifestyle.
Okay.
So now they keep sending over these jerk offs to us to try and get us to convert to their way of life. So how about we take a page out of their book and let's send somebody to enlighten and teach them about our way of life, so that we can start balancing things out.
Okay.
So then maybe they'll stop sending their people to come under the guise of religious enlightenment, religious sanctuary, economic empowerment, all of these different aspects of development that they try and hide. Mechanisms of control. Let's go and let's do the opposite.
So, okay.
And what I want to say about Master Naba is he got permission from the temples.
I read that. Like he had to seek permission from either some elder priest or something.
Yeah.
Because the thing is,
but that's traditional in West African religions.
Yeah. Like he had to get permission to open the door, to even open the door to Westerners who, you could, from the indigenous perspective, see as a threat. Right, but what they knew and all the divinations they were getting at that time is that if you don't open this up, at some point the culture is going to get so infringed upon that it's going to get destroyed, and if you don't open this up, there's no way of preservation.
So my question, another great segue without even me saying anything. When I look at practices, West African religious practices, a lot of them incorporate some of the things we mentioned here. At least the basic things you mentioned in terms of your practice. Why would you then say it's under threat? Particularly because right now, and maybe it's because it's a trend, I'm not sure. I would like to believe that it isn't. I think that a lot of folks, particularly of the diaspora, and I'm talking black folks, are traveling not only more to West Africa, but trying to get more in tune. And there's actually within, I want to say, the younger generation. I'm going to put all of y'all in my age bracket, so you're going to have to deal with it. But the younger folks have less of a...
I'm sure he's not opposed to this.
Yeah, you with me? Black don't crack. I don't care what he said. The younger folks have less of a prejudice towards the traditional religions. So this struggle or this attack that you're under is...
Well, let me ask you this.
Dissipating within the next... Go ahead.
I want to answer that question, though. Because it still comes back down to survival. It still comes back to survival. When we've reached, it's just, if you look at humanity in the state that we're in, especially in the Western societies, that's just like a simple answer to your questions. Because here we have this like mindset of individuality. But everything that...
That's a particular American thing.
Yeah, but everything that... everything is action and reaction. Everything is connected. And so if the state of the world is so declined that, there has to be something done. There has to be something done because, we can get to it. And we're at a very, really bad state right now.
So so your view is that this is a critical juncture.
Yes.
In the trajectory of humanity.
Yes.
What do we have,
But let me ask you this, right?
Okay.
When's the last time, if you think that the younger generation is more open, and I agree with you, I think they are open, but when's the last time, do you have children?
I got 2.
You got 2?
That's a fact.
How old?
6 and 4.
When's the last time your 6-year-old asked you for a ancestor lunchbox?
An ancestor munchbox.
Lunchbox.
Lunchbox. I don't know
Say,
what that.
Daddy, I don't want Batman. I want Grandpa. I want to put Grandpa on a shirt.
Okay.
And I want Grandpa.
You're not gonna like my answer.
I want Grandpa. I'm not.
Okay.
Well, go.
Well, you might like my answer. I'm saying you're not gonna like it because my answer's gonna be awesome. Okay. One, the lunchbox is obsolete, but so one thing.
Or Batman underwear or something.
Yeah, I get your question. Yeah. But one thing that I'm very conscious of, right? Because my kids are born here, and so they're actually more so on having to do a balancing act because they're juggling both cultures. I'm 100% quote unquote African. That's where I spent most of my developmental years. I came here, I was already a teenager, and then I went back and then came back. So my life experience is more so tied to over there than over here. Okay. Their life experience, me being their father, and me taking them regularly back to where I'm from is more of a balancing act because they live here, they see that, they see my parents and they see my cousins. So I say that to say I from day one have had conversations with them about who they come from. So they have this concept of ancestry, and you can even ask them and they will tell you, my grandmother is so on my mother's side, my grandmother. So
but then you would be then what I would call an exception to the rule, right? Because then
maybe I don't know. I don't want to toot my horn because I don't know.
Talk about somebody else. Talk about their friends in school.
So, but let me speak about your experience. Do you feel like you didn't growing up? You weren't. You're growing up within your family. You weren't.
I mean, but
brought to believe or to know your people.
My experience is a bit different because I'm first generation. My parents are from Sudan.
Okay.
So I grew up.
So you know who's who.
I know who's who.
That's a fact.
I know what's going on.
Come on.
So mine's a bit that's why I understand you and I are an exception to the rule, whereas that a lot of people aren't.
Maybe I think we're there. So are we talking about? So then, is this practice more so for the folks who are not connected to their ancestors? And if we're by ancestors, we're talking continent. Is this practice for the folks who are not connected to the continent?
It's for anybody that is not connected to their ancestors.
So let's ask a blunt question.
You're not gonna like my answer.
No, that's a good answer. So then let's ask the blunt question. Yeah. Some of this involves a lot of denial, or not denial, a lot of some recognition, because you spoke about the colonial structure. So we are opening this up to also
white people,
white folks,
Chinese people,
Asian folks,
Indian people, brown people.
But then it don't make no sense. But this is where I'm confused, and I'm not trying to attack you because you're
no, we're all initiates. We're about it.
Even like you're Asian, right?
Yeah.
You looking at me? I'm like, I ain't had nothing to do with your colonial structure, right? We was on this side, chilling. They came to us. They have the same kind of thought process. So, and they have their own practices, and if you look at like Shinto and like all those other religions, they also actually
ancestral veneration.
Exactly.
They're with us. Yeah, they're there with us.
So this is really for the folks who are not in tune.
Yes. It's for the people that are away from it, basically.
So let me talk about this a little bit, because I'm white.
We're gonna get our resident white initiate to talk about it.
For anyone who
see now they're gonna stop listening to you. It's over.
So I'm the resident white girl on the panel. So my ancestry is
in a lot of places.
Yes.
We send her in the places where they don't want to hear. They don't want to hear from me or him. We send her.
Okay.
So my ancestry is Irish, on both sides, mother, father. Came over 4 generations ago, settled here. Famine times.
Yep.
Came over. And you look back on the history of Ireland, and it's been colonized a big time by the English, by the Vikings, by a lot of different settlers over time. And Catholicism has been the primary.
People said it cut out.
Yeah, it cut out because the live stream is over. Don't worry, the podcast is still recording.
Okay.
Tell them they're going to have to tune into the podcast. Sorry to interrupt. People will get nervous. They're like, yo, I want to hear her answer. See? You triggered a lot of reactions. Yo, it cut out right when she was about to get into it. Are you kidding me?
Why would he put the white person on?
Well, listen, for once that we cut you up. Sorry, I was about to repeat. Sorry. Let me calm down. Sorry.
So, we've been colonized over time, and the primary spirituality over there, if you can call it spirituality, is Catholicism, right? Christianity. St. Patrick drove all the snakes out of Ireland, which is really driving polytheism out of Ireland, driving the traditions out. And so, when you talk about the traditions, when you talk about what my people did, we were polytheistic. We had many different divinities. We had many different gods and goddesses we worshipped. There were ancient practices of identifying the cycles of nature and how to set up structures to use those cycles. Like
Stonehenge. You still see it with Stonehenge.
Stonehenge is in England.
And the different places.
Newgrange is in Ireland. And they set up their structures to actually honor certain seasonal cycles and changes in the seasons. And a lot of the traditions that I see that my people had correlate directly to the indigenous traditions across the world, and in particular in the Nile Valley in West Africa.
Okay.
And I'll give you one example, is the